This is the part where I'm going to be sewing the English paper piecing quilt together. I've decided on a design of a flower. This is how the pieces are. And then there's a little leaf that goes here. I've already sewn quite a few flowers together, and it's going to take me a while to actually do the lap quilt because I can't do a huge quilt with this one because that would take me forever and I'd never finish, and I never would get you all finished on the actual video. But here's some of the ones I've already sewn together, just different colors, and they've all got the white middle with different colors of green as the leaf. And I'll show you now how to sew these together. We're going to take one of the pieces and we're going to put the right sides together. And basically what we're going to do is we got a length of thread. Don't make it too awful long, but what we're going to do is we're going to whip stitch to this together. So you put it into the corner, and then basically you just start taking little pieces from the side. Now you don't want to go too far down like this because we're going to be in the actual paper and the stitch is going to show. What you want to do is just catch the very top part of each one of these, and then you'll whip stitch this all the way across. Now there's some people who do it differently, and that's okay. They do like a ladder stitch or some kind of hidden stitch or whatever, but this is what I do. If your thread gets tangled as you're doing it, just pull on it, help it to get untangled a little bit, and then start with your whip stitch again all the way across. And it's okay if it's not perfect, it's fine. Basically we just want to get the stitches close enough to where it's going to hold, because this is the base of your quilt, is all of these pieces sewn together, and you don't want it so far apart that the pieces are going to be coming apart in your quilt. There's a lot of people that just do a few stitches, and that's fine if you're going to quilt them on a long arm machine, you know, professionally have them quilted. But the problem is most people can't afford to get the long arm quilting done, so they have to do it themselves or they do hand tie, and I've done a little short video about hand tying. But we're getting close to the very end here. And once you get to the very end, just take your thread, wrap it around a couple times, and then pull it through. Now you got two pieces together like this, and in order to sew the next piece together, you're going to put these together like this. This is the center, and you're going to just grab one stitch here, and then you're going to grab one stitch at the very end. So now those two are together temporarily, and then what you're going to do is keep whip stitching as you go along, just like we whip stitched the other one. And of course you can fast forward this if you like. I'm just doing this regular time with just a little cell phone, so nothing fancy here. make sure you catch that piece of thread that you've used to get to the very end. You could tie it off and start again, but I believe you use less thread just by pulling it through like that, and then that way you still got a length of thread that's going to be secure. There's no extra knot to have to deal with, and the knot takes a little bit more thread than it does just pulling that through. Okay, now we're getting close to the end here. I'll show you what to do here. Okay, we got to the very end. And we're going to do wrap around again. Now, we need these two pieces to be sewn together right here, so that we have the hexagon sewn together. Well, if you put it like this, you know this is going to have to bend a little bit in order for you to do it, and that's okay. That's what's required. But what you need to make sure you do is make sure that you get these two pieces lined up exactly where they're supposed to be. Then hold them with your fingers. Some people have these magnet things that they hold them together with. They'll put one on each side, but I do it the old-fashioned way, by hand. So you just start whip stitching and make sure that first couple are really tight right there in the corner. You don't want a hole in the corner. And you whip stitch. Keep whip stitching all the way through. Now, we're going to do this all the way around till we get to the very end of all of these being sewn together. And then I'll show you how to put the leaf on. Now, if you want to fast forward till you get to this part, that's fine. I haven't got a huge knowledge of how to cut and splice videos and all that, so I'm just going to be videoing it, and you can fast forward if you like, or if not, you can just sit here and watch me sew the rest of this up. Okay, I've got to the end. We'll go around twice. Here we are again. We need another piece. I've got a kitty cat here on the side trying to get a little bit of attention, so no, baby, not right now. Not now. Okay, here we are again. I'm going to match these up. I'm going to take one little bite here. Go back over here. A little bite over here. And you're going to have this in your hand, but it's okay. You can put it like this, and then you start whip stitching and make sure that you catch that thread that's in between. And then I'll show you what happens whenever you get to the end of the thread that I've got on this needle. Usually, if there's enough, I'll go to the end right here, right there, and then I'll tie off and then start a new one to attach it to the next piece, because I don't have very much thread here. That's just a small amount of thread. Okay, getting close to the end. make sure that you don't get down in here. See how far that is from the top? That'll show a great big stitch on the other side. So sketch that, tie it around a couple of times like that. And I've got this itty bitty piece right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back through and hide this string. I've got the little knot in the end of it. So I'm just going back and catching some of the thread. I'm not actually putting it through the pieces. Like that. And then I'm going to snip that little thread. It's kind of hard to do watching it on a video behind the camera. So I'm going to take this little piece off, temporarily put the needle in my mouth, grab me a new piece of thread. This is the kind of thread that I'm using, 24238, and it's a bunch of thread spools that I got online from Amazon, and it was a pack of like 24, and I just take a couple of rolls off. And this thread, by the way, was about this big whenever I first started. So and I got my needle threader, which is what I need in order to be able to see what's going on. I'm trying to do this through the camera, and that's really fun. Okay. So you got your piece of thread, pull that through, pull this to the end, now some people do the quilter's knot. Hang on just a second, I gotta get these two ends together. There we go. Some people do the quilter's knot, which is basically putting the ends like this on your fingers, putting the needle here. Sorry, it's gotten the other way. Put the ends here. Put the needle there. Wrap around 6 or 7 times, maybe 8. Hold on to that little knot. Pull your string through. I have problems doing that, so I'll just do it my way, which is lick my finger and catch both ends. Wrap it around my finger, roll it, pull it tight, and there's my knot. It's not as pretty a knot as the other one, but that's what I do. Okay, now here we go again. We're going to match this one up. That's going to bend a little bit. You can bend it all the way, but these pieces I use over and over and over again, so I try not to bend it completely in half. And we'll get it started right in here. Remember, don't go down too awful far. Somehow I've gotten a little thread loose. There we go. I thought I had knotted it, but I hadn't. Okay. There's my little knot. You can catch it if you want to. Like this. poke it through so that you can actually catch that knot and give it a little bit of stability. Make sure you get these straight, because making sure they're straight is part of it. The reason why we have the hexagons punched out is so that they'll all be exactly the same size, and that is what makes the quilt straight. If you don't have them all the same size, then it's you're gonna have a wonky quilt and you're gonna have a hard time getting it together. So I'm just gonna keep whip stitching this. I'm gonna show you how to make the whole flower, so feel free to fast forward until I get to the green one, which is the leaf. I've got another holder back here for my cell phone, and it's getting in my way of me being able to pull my thread across here. So I had to move it out of the way. And I've got baby kitty over there who's a little frustrated with me right now because I didn't let her in my lap because I'm sewing. But she will survive. And make sure that whenever you're catching these, that you've got them straight, and just catch the very top. Try not to go down deep, because if you do, then your threads will show. Now, I'm not a perfect sewer, and this is a hand sewn quilt, and it's not going to be perfect because it is done by hand, and I kind of embrace that, to where if there's any little pieces that get seen on the other side, that's okay with me. I try not to get it to where it does, but it happens. Okay, I'm got to the very end, so I'm going to wrap this around twice, pull it through, so that's secure there. Let's look at our stitches. See there's a couple of them that I've gotten a little bit too close to the outside, but like I said, that's okay. This is hand pieced, hand done, and I don't have a problem with it. You can use thread that matches, but I'm getting ready to do a quilt for a grandson of mine that just got married. Again, we're just going to go in this little corner and take a little nibble. And we're going to take a little nibble here. Make sure you get a little bit more both, because that one was just a single thread. But anyway, I'm doing this by hand. There's going to be some boo-boos here and there. And I kind of think that it looks kind of cool because you can tell it's hand pieced, hand done. And I don't have a problem with that at all. There's people that can do this type of hexagon quilt sewing on a sewing machine. You have to mark where you start and where you stopped so that you don't sew past the actual junction. But this is much easier for me, and as some of you know, that I have been in and out of the hospital with a lot of illnesses, a lot of surgeries, and the whole point of me doing these is to have something to do while I'm not feeling good, while I'm in bed. And You can tell I'm sitting up in my bed with this on my lap doing it because I have problems with my blood pressure dropping. So I usually do this and I watch movies to keep my mind busy so that I don't go nuts. Some people wouldn't be able to do this because it's very tedious work. Okay, I'm going to the very end here again, so I'm wrap it around twice, pull it through. Again, I'm going to take this piece. If your cardboard is too hard, this doesn't bend very well, so I use the flyers that comes in the mail that is sent basically as garbage because it's advertisements. I either use that or I use cardstock, 67-pound cardstock. So now I've got this lined up again. Make sure that I've got little nibbles right there in the corner. And we'll keep going with this one. Now this is how we put all of the pieces together that we need for the quilt. And it's going to be quite a while before I get enough for a complete lap quilt. So the next video may be a while coming, kind of like this one was, because I was sick, but it might be a long time coming because I'll need to sew up quite a few of these in order to do the last part of the video on how to put all of these flowers together. And I think the flower, if it's just the flower, the pattern is called Mom's Flower Garden or Mother's Flower Garden or Flower Garden, something like that. I'm not exactly sure, but this is a variation of one that I saw that I looked up. I thought it was cute with the little leaf. So that's what I decided to do since I have so many extra hexagons from a lot of quilts that I made. I started out with 2,000 or 3,000 hexagons. Okay, we got to the end, so I'm gonna wrap it around twice again, pull it through, get another piece. This, I just need to fold it down a little bit, put these together, so you can see my stitching there. That's okay, not a problem. And the one that I'm getting ready to do for my grandson and his wife is all different colors of purple. Make sure that doesn't get in there. So I'm going to be using purple thread for theirs. But go to the end and then start whip stitching this. Just trying to get it close enough where you guys could see it without me going in and out, but this is my first time doing this long of video on how to do this, so you'll have to forgive me for it not being where it can zoom in and get the recording without being fuzzy. Now, I do need to tell you that these papers that are holding this, see that one I didn't catch the blue material, so I've got to go back and catch the blue material, which happens, it's okay. It happens. You can do this while you're sitting watching TV and everything, but the papers that are in these, as soon as you get a piece completely surrounded, you can take the paper out. Some people don't like to take any of the papers out, and that's okay. Some people don't have an enormous amount of papers, so it's easier to take them out and use them again, or use them over to use part of the same part of the glove. But I've been doing this now for 3 years, and I have a buildup of hexagon squares. Some of them I've actually had to throw away because it was used so much. Okay, I'm gonna catch the little bitty part right there and wrap it around twice again. Pull. Now we're going to do the same thing here. Oops. Evidently. There we go. Well, I got a knot in it, which is okay. It happens. Sometimes I can't get the knot out of where I actually got it knotted. Sometimes you just pull on that piece and it'll come to the end, and then you give it a tug. There we go. Okay, so now I'm gonna match this one up. Hang on to it. Get right there in that corner so that you don't have a hole. Get that pretty tight. Sometimes I catch my thread like this and then pull, because otherwise it'll wrap around here and I'll have to undo it every time. Or whatever works for you. Sometimes I do it and I don't even think about it, and sometimes I don't do it at all when I get to the very end. So. Oops, almost didn't get that one. There we go. To me, this is very relaxing, and after you do, all this whip stitching so many times, you kind of get used to what you're doing, and it doesn't take very long to do it because you're so used to grabbing the little pieces, and it just comes natural after a while. Trying to keep this in focus is an interesting thing. Now see, I've gotten a few little strings here, little loops. It's because I didn't get the tension on my thread, so I'm just going to pull on that little loop, put my needle in the next loop. Oops, I just broke off my thread. That's okay. Not a big deal. That happens. What I'm going to do is just start over, pull on the thread end. Now I've got a knot right here. And what you do is you start back here a little ways, so that you've still got some. See, I'm going to catch that little knot and then go in here again. You go back just a little ways so that you can make sure that you don't leave a little hole where there isn't any sewing. Sometimes I catch myself pulling a little bit too hard, and that way the thread is pulled on pretty tight. Now I'm going to catch that little loop right there that I left behind just so I could secure it. Those are my little tidbits for things that happens in between time, and nothing's always ever completely perfect. Okay, wrap it around twice on there. Okay, now we're going to grab the next piece. We're getting close. See, got most of it done. I'm going to bend this down a little bit, match this up. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to catch this right here in the corner. And if your thread's not long, you can just go ahead and start sewing that way, and then when you start new thread, you sew from here and go that direction. But I still have a little bit of thread, enough to work on this one. I believe I've got enough thread to last until I get to the very end of this particular piece. You see my thread's kind of winding up, so I'm going to grab it here, just pull it down. Now it's not twisting as much. Be sure to catch that thread in there that you used to get across. Go all the way to the end here. Make sure that these pieces stay where they're together. And I've got my tension on my cards right here with my thumb and my finger. Some people think that I put my stitches way too close together and I put too many, but that's okay. I know that this isn't going to come apart on me. Okay, I've got to the very end here. Make sure I got both sides. I'm going to wrap it around twice, pull it through. Now I'm going to hide my tail again in these stitches in here. So I'm just coming up underneath those. I'm not really catching the blue material here. I'm just hiding that thread. Okay, get myself some more thread here. Needle in my mouth. Pull a row. Lay this piece right there. That's the end. Pull another row. And get my needle threader. Again, it's hard to do looking through the camera. There we go. Sorry about that. There we go. You thought that was going to be forever, didn't you? Go down, reach down. There we go. Okay. Now we're ready to go. Pick up the piece. Now this is where we're at. So we're going to pull this one down. I'm going to match all of these corners. I'll start right there in the very corner. Brand new thread. I'm going to catch a little piece of that knot and go like that. And then just start across. Now, when it gets time for us to get to the end, I'll show you what to do here. I did grab quite a bit of thread here. Sorry about my tummy yelling. That's part of my tummy problems I've been having. There's a whole lot going on with my health these days, and it's not the greatest, but I'm trying to make it through. I'm going through almost all my health issues alone, without anybody going with me or anything. Okay, almost to the end of this one. Sorry about that, bumping the camera. If you hear any music or thumping in the background, that's my neighbors upstairs who love to play lots of bass music and stuff that's definitely not my kind of music. See how if you have a extra long string, sometimes it catches on things. That's okay, that's part of sewing. Okay. At the end here, so we take a little dip here, wrap that around twice, pull it through. Now, we've got one piece here that's not sewn together. But what we're going to do first is this piece is surrounded by, completely surrounded. So we're going to take this paper out, and this is glue basted. So basically, you just pull on one of these corners, start pulling around the edge, and then you take your fingers right back here and you push it across like that with your fingers, and it'll get one loose, and you pull it out. You can see where there's been times where that's where I poked it through and I told you all not to do it, so I pulled it back, but there's some edges here that show that I've gotten really close to the paper. But you put that in your batch to be able to use it again later. Now we take this part right here that's not sewn together, And we're gonna put all of these corners right here together. And then we're gonna whip stitch this part right here. Do the same thing, get in that corner so that you don't have a little hole in the corner. I'm gonna whip stitch this across. Then we're gonna put the green one on, which is my leaf. See what happens whenever you have extra long thread. It comes down, catches other pieces, and you have to get it loose. I try to keep my piece down so that the thread doesn't catch as much, but sometimes it catches anyway. So I'm making all of these flowers. Then I'm gonna have to figure out what kind of background I want for the flowers. All the pieces to put around it. And then I'll be coming back and showing you how to put those pieces together. Now, we got to the very end, wrap it around a couple times. Now you got your knot, and we need a leaf to go right here. So basically, we do the same thing as we did before. We put the piece like this, match it up with the rest of them. Take a little bitty bite right here, go across, take a little nibble there. And we're going to sew across this side. Then afterwards I'll show you how I'm going to put these pieces together whenever I do my next video that shows how to put the pieces, the flowers actually together that I've made. And please don't be frustrated with me if it takes me a little while to get that done, because you have to make quite a few flowers to make a quilt, and I'm just going to make a little lap quilt so I could show you guys how to do it. But still, I think this will be my 25th flower that I've made, and it's taken me a little while to get all of those made, and it's probably going to take probably 100 of these or so to make a quilt. A decent size anyway, to show you guys how to do it. If I were you, I would not get as long as a piece of string or thread as I have on this one, because it does get caught quite a bit, and re-threading isn't a problem. Threading more needle, putting more thread on your needle is a little bit easier than it is to keep having to pull this thread through and it getting caught all the time. Okay, at the corner now, wrap it around twice. There we go. Now we need this piece right here to be sewn together. So we're going to bend this just a little bit, match this piece up. See how it bends? This is still out a little bit, but I'm going to match that up. And then again, make sure that we get that little piece right there in the corner so that we don't miss anything and have a little hole there. So I'm just going to sew this one to the end. Then we're going to wrap it around a couple of times on the needle again, thread it back through to catch the tail and cut it off, and then this particular piece will be done. Now normally, if I'm not videotaping, I can do one of these in nothing flat. Doesn't take very long. But doing it on here and talking and trying to get the needle threaded through the camera and all that junk has been very interesting. So in between me finishing this video and the next one, I'll be making a whole bunch more flowers. And then I'll come back and show you how to put them together. See, that one I didn't catch the blue thread, or the blue material, so I had to go back and catch that. You don't have to be absolutely perfect on this. But you do need a good cotton thread. You can do polyester if you want, but I wouldn't recommend it because you use a good cotton material and a good cotton thread, and it's going to last a very long time. Polyester is going to shrink. Okay, I'm at the very end here, so I'm going to wrap this around twice. Pull. Gonna go back through, catch the tail with my thread here. And then cut this off. Make sure I put a knot in that while I've got it. Okay. And now you've got your little flower. So that's how you sew them together. Now whenever I do the quilt, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be sewing them like this. And like this. So I'll need a background material to go in between here. This one's going to actually go like that. This one's going to go like that. So they're going to be offset from each other, back and forth like this. And then there'll be one of each through here. And that's the material that I have to figure out what kind I want. More than likely it's going to be a plain background material. It's not going to be white because these centers would be lost if that was the case. And we want those to stand out so that they're actually, you can see that they're flowers. But that's the next part, part 7 of how to make a Hexagon English Paper Piecing quilt. And I'll be back with you the next time on putting these actually together. Thanks and take care.